Hey everybody, happy to be here today with you. This video that I'm gonna do today is regarding a new company that I got to know after ETH Denver, and this company is called Ember Data. What basically they are, it's a very proper competitor from what we do have right now with Infura. So today I will show you a code that is trying to work on the Web3 using Dart as the backend. But the importance is that it's going to point to a node, and that node is now not Infura's node, but it's Ember Data's node. I got to know their services and their platform, and I will be sharing some screens. I will be sharing how it was my experience using their endpoint. And also, I hope you do like this video, and that will be probably something that you can use and enjoy in the future. Hey everybody, so today I'm going to show you this app that I built for ETH Denver. It's called Count on Me. And what's really cool is that the hackathon finished, but I had the chance to try new technologies under the Web3 area. So the story starts with the submission, right? Here is the official project. It's on the folio called Count on Me, and you can see what was working while I built it in ETH Denver. And I got this message from Trevor Clark from Ember Data suggesting me to try Ember Data technology. So they did a challenge worth 500 DAI for me to, for the first time, generate an API key, go to their Postman collection, see the documentations, but also like understand what Ember Data is all about. So here in this website, emberdata.io, is where the story starts. The first thing you're obviously going to do is create an account. You can do that using Google. You can probably do that using your Github repo as well. But I did with username and password. It was a no-brainer, of course. And then the first thing you're going to do is generate your API key. So I did that API key just to try the service. So far, the service is free, and they provide a node connection to the Ethereum network. What I liked about Ember Data is that this is a fully integrated blockchain area where you can not only connect with Ethereum, but you're also going to be able to get information from other blockchains such as EOS, Bitcoin, Ethereum Cash, and everything. So I'm currently under the free plan. The on-demand plan that they do have starts at $50 per month, and it basically goes on the amount of API requests that you're going to be doing. But I strongly suggest that for the first time, we try to understand what this is all about, and also to connect our applications using Ember Data. As I did, it was all a trial. So this is the link to their documentation under all their blockchain integrations, right? So today they are, if you go to the getting started of their applications, so here is the link to all the blockchain IDs that you can connect today. So as I said before, you can not only connect with Ethereum, but also to other blockchains such as the mainnet of Bitcoin, Bcash, even Bitcoin Satoshi value. But what was interesting is that this application that I built in ETH Denver, I was using Girly testnet, and I had to adapt all my code to look into the Rinkeby testnet. But as developers, this is obviously not a problem, as I do have here Alice Gurley, Alice Rinkeby. I have money in most of the testnets. So using the addresses that I already had, so for example, I'm going to use Alice on Rinkeby. It's a Rinkeby address. This is the Rinkeby network. And so Alice obviously has a private key that I'm not going to show over here, but in case you don't know how to get your private key, just go to account details and then export private key. If you type in your MetaMask password, you're going to get that key. But the logic is that via private key, I'm going to generate my public key. And then I'm going to show under my application that I do have this balance. And then finally, Alice is going to be able, for the first time, not to send money to Bob, but she's going to send a message to Bob, an encoded message. So again, back to my application. My application was a platelets donation app where patients of like terminal cancer could probably connect anonymously with donors of platelets, and they would be all divided by their blood types. So this was an experimentation of me to use Flutter. I am under the pubspec.yaml. I am using this library called Web3 Dart. This is the only library that I do know up to date that can connect Flutter and Dart applications with Ethereum. Today, most people use Web3.js or Ethers.js, but for the first time, this is probably a way, like a patch, how can I say, to connect with an Ethereum node, right? So those are the simple methods that I'm going to use today in my application, because this is me experimenting with the technology, using and learning about RPC servers for the first time. Obviously, I'm not a developer for a real long time, so to me it's all new, and all I wanted to see is that those methods work. And as you will see, they do work. So my Web3 experimentation, oops, I opened FaceTime by mistake. Let me just close FaceTime because I'm not interested in that. So this is the Web3 experiment Dart, right? I'm going just to stop my application right now and build it again. So I'm using an iOS emulator, which is the iPhone 11. I wish I really had this phone, but I don't. So it's going to build from scratch. As you can see, it's launching. It's calling my main Dart method. So the main Dart is this one that is going to call my welcome screen. And then from the welcome screen, I'm going to redirect you guys to the login screen. So this Web3 screen, which is pretty much this Web3 experiment that I do have here. So as you can see, this is my stateful widget calling the Web3 screen. So I hope you do not memorize this, but this is my private key, and this is actually the private key that I got for Alice on Rinkeby. So again, I got this private key exported to my application. Back to the application, it's still running Xcode. Let's see if it built. It did build in 30 seconds. That's excellent. So where's my simulator? It's building. Let's wait a couple of seconds more, but hopefully we're gonna have the screen shortly so I can show you guys. So this is it. This is Count on Me. So when I press this button, sign in with Web3, it will request me to enter a value, right? So this is the value that obviously in the future I don't want any user to use a private key and import that private key and manually type in the private key. But if I press this button is going to do nothing more than transform this private key into a public key. So I'm using this method called credentials from hexadecimal. This is going to get the instance of my private key. So here again is my Rinkeby Alice private key. And then if I press it again, you will see that it generates my public key. So this address matches this DE500 is actually Alice's public key. So again, back to my application, you can see if I manually like copy paste this here as a commentary, but this number matches what console log just gave me down there, 0x, 2a, blah, 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 blah. So back to my code, the second thing that the app does is get the balance. And to get the balance, that's where the magic happens. In the application that I did at ETH Denver, I was pointing to Infura Girly node. I could also point to Rinkeby testnet with Infura. But for the first time, I'm using my API key generated by Ember Data. So you can see that I'm using this endpoint. So if I press the display balance, what this actually does is to tell me here via console log, I'm going to see my Ether amount. So you can see that in Gwei and in ETH, I have this amount. So isn't it interesting if we double check if Alice actually has 9.72 ethers? So let's check here. Alice actually do have 972 ETH over there. So it's quite cool that just pointing to a different endpoint and pointing to Ember Data's node, I do have the same value, right? So finally, Alice is able to send a message to Bob. Again, I'm going to need to use Ember Data's endpoint, and then I put here Bob's address. So Bob's address is AB637B, and so this is again is Bob, right? So I have to get a Rinkeby Bob, not just any Bob. So Rinkeby Bob. This is, oops, 562F. Let me copy paste that Bob here to my application because I'm using a wrong Bob, and that was quite nice that we could catch that. So if I put Bob Rinkeby's address over here, let me restart my application, and here comes the beauty of Flutter. If I press this button, this little hot restart, I will be able to crash all my application and then restart it again. So back to the initial screen, I am going to get the public key, given that I'm going to insert my private key. So let me just copy this private key over here. And if I paste this private key over here, I will be able to generate my Alice public key. After that, let's check Alice's balance. And Alice, again, as we saw before, has 9.72 ETH. And finally, Alice is going to send a message to Bob. So here is where Alice sends the hello Bob message, right? So using encoded JSON, crazy astronautic methods, hello Bob, here is Ember Data node. So if I press start, let me get again the public key, let me get this public key, let me point the node to Ember Data. And finally, I'm going to send the message to Bob. And as you can see, Alice was able to say, hello Bob, here is Ember Data node using the methods over here. So this method is a proof that it's printing the status that using the get transaction receipt, we were actually able to send a message to Bob, right? So here is also something really cool that I learned in the process of Ember Data. You will have an amazing documentation, first of all. You're going to have many methods that work on different blockchains, but specifically to Ethereum, you're going to look at this JSON RPC methods, and those are the methods here called ETH get balance. So again, you're going to need to have your Ember Data API key. You're also going to be able to generate a message and test that because they do have an impressive Postman collection. So how do you get the Postman collection? So in Ember Data products and services, you will see the Web3 data, JavaScript, right? But in the, where is the Postman collection? There was like an Ember Data. Let me just search for Postman under Ember Data's website. So if we go Postman, Ethereum mainnet. So those are all the networks that they are using. I really don't remember right now how I did the Postman collection, but long story short is that this method here, Postman collections, this number here is a download that you're gonna do. So if you go to Postman using this code over there, you will be able to generate the Ember Data API collection. So just if you want to get a new collection and just get that collection name, you will be able to create a new Ember Data collection, right? So the Ember Data over here, as you can see, it has the get balance. And then given your unique API key and your address, you will be able to test those methods here. So it's quite nice that you can test, even if you don't want to test in your application, you can still use their services. What I did like specifically was the amount of support that they gave to me as a beginner developer. So I got a message, an email that I exchanged with Trevor. Trevor was very nice to go on a one-on-one explanation. We did that about a month ago, but he also pointed me to some examples that Ember Data do have under their GitHub repository. So if you go to Ember Data on GitHub, there are many, many examples, even for gas station and tokens and everything that you can do specifically for Ethereum and how to use those methods. So their support was amazing. I really like the fact that they're also very fast. Their node is running in absolute order. So it worked, and I'm happy that I learned a new technology and I can test all those collections once I get more fluent with Postman. I'm going to be able to make a quick test here to get a raw connection, get a raw transaction, sorry, but to be able to use those methods outside of my application. So this comes very handy in my development as a dev, as a Web3 dev, because we know how handy it is to test things on Postman first before we go and test those methods in our applications, right? But just to prove that here is my real API key of Ember Data, and it definitely did work because I need that to point to a node. So let's just to double proof and show you guys that even if I comment that, then my method is going to break. So if I comment all my API URLs, you are going to see that I can still generate a public key from a private key. So I'm gonna hot restart my application. But again, I'm gonna have some errors over there, but in my application, as you can probably see, there were many errors and things that I'm not fluent. I'm personally this is the first time that I'm doing API calls. This is the first times that I'm using Postman. Those tools that you guys might be familiar for a real long time. As a beginner, I'm still having difficulties on this technical side. But what I loved is the fact that it's a new technology. It is a different node, so you guys do not necessarily need to count on Infura as your main source of connection with Ethereum. Your decentralized applications can work with different endpoints. So this was an attempt for me to explain how good I liked about this technology. Their support was really the best, and I think like when you dedicate such an enormous amount of time to explain to a beginner, to show the libraries, to put yourself available for questions, this is really, really cool from their team. So specifically to Trevor, I would like to thank you for all the attention, because when my application was crashing or when I couldn't really figure out the API, first you need to put the API and then you have to point to the RinkB testnet. It's not just basically get your API and that's it. So the fact that I couldn't really do the end on the API thing to get the endpoint properly done, Trevor's really nice, and he answered to me in a nanosecond. So what I love is the fact that if you're doing DeFi and you need to do a lot of arbitrage and you're going to need to get pricing from different exchanges, from different networks, this is the technology that you should definitely take a look at, because they have way more developed methods than the ones that I use today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned, and why not try it out, Ember Data, for the first time. Maybe your application is going to work much better than mine. Bye bye and see you.